it's Medina from the Clarinet Life, and today what I want to talk about is equipment. These are all those things that we get in addition to our clarinet. Now I'm going to talk about equipment, but I want to talk specifically about our students who are at the beginning level and maybe intermediate level as well. And I'm sure some of these things can apply to students at more advanced levels. But I specifically want to talk about those who are starting off. And the reason why is we have to think about what they're going to experience. We have to anticipate those sorts of things. And the reason why we need to is it allows us to figure out, okay, what are our students' needs and what can we do to create an experience that's going to be really positive. The better experience our students are going to have, the more they're going to want to practice, the more that we'll have a greater chance of retaining our students. So it's really important that we take the time to consider what our students' needs are and remind them that, in the beginning, it's always a challenge, but there's certain equipment that they can invest in that can really make their experience so much better and definitely have them have way more fun and play the clarinet a lot easier. So let's begin. The first one I want to talk about is very basic, and it's just reeds, right? Like reeds here. So when it comes to reeds, a lot of times players start off with a size 2 or for some a size 2.5. Making sure that they have reeds and making sure that they have some extra reeds just in case if they break it. We know the breaking of the reed is probably one of the most frustrating things about the clarinet for the young student. And then as you go beyond and beyond, it's the warping of the reed, right? We know what we're talking about here. The reed. But anyway, we want to make sure that they have reeds to play, because if they don't have a reed, well, they're not going to be able to play. So a lot of times companies will have these single packs. This is Rico, this is Van Doren, and this is a size 2. This is also a size 2. So these reeds are fine. It's one of those things where they don't have to have the most expensive version of everything, right? We don't need to spend tons of money on equipment. We need equipment right now for the beginner, equipment that's good enough, not the most expensive, because things break. Sometimes they're not as committed, right? So we want to make sure that our students aren't breaking the bank just to get equipment so they can play. So the next thing I want to talk about is the swab. Now, a lot of times when students rent out their instruments or they purchase an instrument, it'll come with a swab, or maybe it won't even come with a swab. But sometimes they don't look so great. Sometimes they, they look like a tiny little square, and there's nothing that they can do with that, really. It's not going to wick the clarinet. It's not going to clean or dry the instrument. So this is a gem brand scarf. It's not a scarf. I've had students try to wear it as a scarf. It's not a scarf. Silk swab. These swabs, I like them because if you just get the cotton, I personally find that the cotton gets stuck. Why? Because we know with the clarinet on the upper register, not the upper register, the upper joint, the upper joint has a register tube, and that register tube can really cause a lot of problems if the swab gets stuck. So we want to avoid that as much as possible, because the reality is we will not be with our student 24/7. So if they have a silk swab or a silk-like swab, it's going to be much easier for them to clean the instrument, but also for the instrument not to get damaged and for the swab to not get stuck in the instrument. One thing that I always wind up forgetting, but it's really important, and that is cork grease. Again, you don't have to spend tons of money on cork grease, but it's really important that they do have cork grease available. Sometimes used instruments, they might not need it as often as if they purchase a brand new instrument. But remember this, if the instrument is recorked, that means that cork might be a little bit more swollen than a cork that's been used. So having the cork grease is helpful. The other thing is we don't want students to squeeze and grab the instrument when they're assembling it and disassembling it. So if they have cork grease, it's going to make it a lot easier. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about, this is related to the reeds, is maybe a reed case. You know, I know that the reeds come in those little packaging. That's not the best condition that your reeds can be in. Having some kind of reed case is helpful. However, reed cases can be really pricey. So I definitely don't recommend getting the most expensive case. If I were you, I would use one of these. This is by Rico. Okay, so these are nice. This holds a total of 4 reeds. That's definitely enough for the beginner. Rico also makes these single ones here. And there are other brands that make it. I just happen to have the Rico brand. So let's keep going. So another thing that I want to talk about is the clarinetist experience in terms of physically their experience. The clarinet is a heavy instrument, and we don't have the luxury of, you know, having a different type of like head joint, like the flute, the curved head joints. We don't have the luxury of having different size instruments because we know that's not feasible with the clarinet. So these next things I'm going to talk about is really crucial for your students to not get discouraged. If their thumb hurts, if their hands hurt, they're most likely going to not want to play as often. So let's talk about equipment that might be helpful for them. So the first thing that I want to talk about in terms of making sure that they don't feel any kind of pain is the thumb rest. So this is a thumb rest here. This is by BG, and it's one of the like little nubs. And I actually use this type of thumb rest on my thumb rest here. I used to use one that was longer, but I wound up switching. Some other things that you might want to try if the student doesn't really like that type of cushion thumb rest. This is a pencil grip, but it's a foamy, cushiony kind of pencil grip, and it can fit, let's see if I can fit it on mine, here on the thumb rest, right? You might have to stretch it out a little bit and then clip it so it won't stick out so much. Sometimes these wider thumb rests though, these work better. Another thing that you could do is some type of rubber tubing. If you do go that route, I got this at Canal Rubber. I don't believe Canal Rubber is open anymore. This was a store on Canal Street in New York City, downtown. But I'm sure that there are other places that have something similar. So this is the kind of rubber tubing. Make sure it's not too cushiony. If it's too cushiony, then it won't have that firmness that's necessary to cushion, I guess, for lack of better words, the thumb. Yeah, so these are the kind of 3 solutions. Your traditional thumb rest, and there's different versions, so you can check at your local music store or online. This is a pencil grip. You can give it a shot. Sometimes we have this laying around at home. And then the kind of DIY is this kind of rubber, I guess, rubber tubing, you would call it. And again, it's very similar to the concept of the pencil grip. It would fit in through here. You might have to do a little bit of a slit to get it through here. So give that a shot. I would start off with buying a traditional one and then taking it from there. Okay, so here are some mouthpiece patches. These cushions are important. Sometimes when the students play, they put a little too much pressure on the mouthpiece. This will help protect the mouthpiece, but also help protect their teeth. So something like this is important to get, and usually they last about a month or 2, unless they're really grinding or putting too much pressure. But I just wanted to add this because sometimes we don't consider that as a part of the comfort that the student needs. Sometimes we just forget, like we have it on our instrument, but we just sometimes don't remember it for them. So this is, I think maybe, I don't think it's a BG cushion. BG does make the cushions. There's so many brands out there. I think this is just another brand, but give this a shot. A mouthpiece cushion can be really helpful. Another thing regarding, I guess, the mouth for their comfort and so they won't get injured is sometimes students have braces. That's the worst. It's so frustrating when a student has to deal with that, and it really makes it tricky and difficult for them to play. So this, so you won't see the shine, but it says Rite Aid. This is in New York City, that's a common drugstore, Rite Aid. We have Duane Reade and Walgreens, that sort of stuff, and your independent mom and pop shops as well. But this is for those who have braces, and they put it on the middle portion of the braces. I think a big brand is called Gum, Gum. You can look that up, but essentially it's wax. So it's wax for the students to put, or anyone to put on the metal part of their braces, so they won't have that scraping on the bottom of their lip. So let's see, we're almost done. I want to talk about neck straps really quickly. So neck straps can be really helpful for the beginning clarinetist. Professionals also use neck straps, so it's not limited to just beginners. I have two types of neck straps, and there's two main elements to them that make them very distinct. Let me show you those. The first one is this type of neck strap that, these are tangled. That's what you don't want to have in your neck straps, is your neck straps to be tangled. But this first neck strap that I want to share with you is unique because the strap is not elastic. There's some straps that are elastic, and those could be really helpful. This is one of those things where you want to have your student try it out. So for me, I actually have two types. I have a non-elastic and an elastic. When I was in college, I actually used neck straps through my graduate degree, and it was because I had an injury that I was dealing with, and it really helped a lot. It really helped mitigate any kind of pain or discomfort that I was dealing with. So this strap, this area here, is not elastic. This is by Neotech, so make sure when you get a strap, make sure it's specifically for clarinet. That's one thing that's really important. I'll pull it up, and this is not elastic. This stays in one place, okay? And so the student, the player, will adjust it that way, and you always want to make sure that you have this little hook right here and the little attachment so you can put it on the thumb rest. The second kind, and this one is by BG, and this one does have the elastic. This is the kind that I use the most during my undergrad. So it's right here, it's by BG. And again, just make sure that you get the clarinet one. And if you notice this, so you can see it, is elastic. What does that mean? That means that, and it just goes up and down, has a little attachment. What this means is that when I pull it, it's going to stretch now. If you notice this, see how it goes back? That's one downside. Make sure that you, that the student, the player, doesn't, boom, kind of slingshot themselves in the face. We don't want that. So you gotta be really careful in that instance. Or when they take it off, boom, it hits them in the mouth or on the neck or something like that. So you just gotta be a little bit more careful with that. But aside from that, if you're gentle, that's not going to be an issue. But sometimes when we're in a rush, that'll happen. So these two types of neck straps can be really helpful for the student to take away the weight and the pressure on the arms and the hands and the wrists. All right, so thanks everybody for watching this video. I hope this was helpful. I'll try to put some links down of where you can purchase these items, or a little more specifics on what these items are, so you can make sure that you have them for your students or have them for yourself, because these are not limited to just students alone. Like the neck straps, those are things that professionals use a lot. You know, so if you're feeling any kind of pain or discomfort in your arms, a neck strap might be something that you might want to look into. The swabs, doesn't have to be the Gem brand. Let's see, what else did we go through? The patches, doesn't have to be a particular name brand, but definitely with the patches, make sure you get more than one. Thumb rest, you know, I say try a commercial one first, doesn't have to be BG, but something that is going to be able to fit the thumb rest. So you want to make sure that you check that thumb rest and check the size of it, because it could be too big or too small. If you have a student with braces or you happen to have braces, having that wax for the braces is really helpful, especially when you're playing, right? And of course, reeds, because we always need reeds. Okay, I really hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, or maybe you might have some like equipment that you think is really great, put it in the comment box. And yeah, excellent. Thanks so much, and take care.